All right, let's begin. Bé, bon dia. Començaré parlant en català, tindrem la subtitulació aquí en anglès, així que ho podreu seguir de totes formes. Benvinguts als que heu vingut a aquesta segona jornada intensa d'aquest festival intens. Espero que gaudiu les pel·lícules ahir. Jo crec que és una proposta que no deixa indiferent a ningú. Després ho podem comentar al coffee break. I la idea avui és iniciar una jornada diferent, però que ja fa temps que fem, tot i que no li havíem anomenat així. Avui farem la segona part d'aquesta secció que anomenem Research i que enguany s'anomena Workflows, dedicada a estudiar una mica tota la complexitat dels fluxos de treball. I com deia, és una cosa que ja venim fent des de la primera edició, gairebé, diria jo, perquè és quelcom al que sempre ens ha interessat i sempre hem prestat atenció. Hi ha tota una sèrie d'elements que ens fan considerar tot el procés de treball, tot el procés creatiu darrere del cinema mia com quelcom molt interessant i molt destacat a estudiar, a aprendre i a compartir, no? I aquesta secció també té una mica la idea o el propòsit d'anar una mica més enllà del model. És a dir, som un festival força diferent en aquest sentit i no ens interessa tant el que pot fer un model o el que ens deixa fer un model, sinó tot el que envolta aquest procés. És a dir, el que vol fer l'artista humà, el que finalment pot fer, no? I tot aquest procés negociat de relació i de feedback entre l'artista i l'ens artificial, no? Avui tenim una jornada força atapeïda també d'esdeveniments i veurem com s'articula aquesta relació al voltant de diferents seccions. Ara em vull recordar d'una cosa que va dir el Jordi Bayó, que és un dels jurats d'aquesta edició i un dels impulsors d'aquest festival, que deia que el Reine era un lloc on neixen les pel·lícules. I jo m'atreveria a afegir també que amb aquest tipus de seccions és on neixen els cineastes, no? I l'audiència no l'entenem com un ens estàtic, no és algo que està quiet, que està mirant, sinó és algo que participa i que produeix, no? La imatge d'enguany és un record de l'audiència que mai més no serà, i a partir d'aquí jo crec que és força poètic que precisament a la secció de Workflows, el banner de Workflows, desdibuixa una mica aquesta imatge de l'audiència, no? Estem en un pas i en un punt on l'audiència es transformarà, i aquí us comparo les dues imatges de l'any passat i la d'enguany, no? Hi ha tota una dialèctica, tota una relació. Workflows va molt d'això, de relacions, de parlar i d'observar, i jo crec que això demostra una mica aquest caràcter, no? Del que parlàvem, d'aquest trànsit que farà l'audiència des d'un lloc estàtic a un lloc molt més dinàmic. Els assistents d'avui seran els cineastes de demà. Today attendance will be tomorrow's filmmakers. Ja ens ha passat això, ja tenim gent que la primera edició va venir a veure i ara està presentant pel·lícules, i espero que vosaltres també sigueu partícips d'això. Aquesta és la raó de ser de Workflows. Explorar, debatre, compartir i ressignificar pràctiques creatives i processos creatius. Com deia, ja fa temps que fem Workflows, però enguany li anomenem amb aquest terme que és segur, i molts d'aquí estem fent l'aposta per això, de que el workflow, el procés de treball, emergirà com una unitat d'anàlisi, una unitat de debat i de reflexió força interessant. I per fer-ho tindrem dues ponències inicials que parlaran sobre aquesta complexitat. I després us proposarem un panel amb cineastes, tant de la secció Fest, que es va projectar ahir, com cineastes de talent local. So now I will switch to English to introduce the first two keynotes. The first keynote is Human and Generative AI Collaboration in Media Creation. Is some sort of a continuation of yesterday's keynote by the Bournemouth team. And they will present this continuation, as I said, centered on all the practical and the creative processes. And then we'll be having Claudio Celis Bueno talking about this complexity, this approach on the complexity of a creative process and workflows from a labor perspective. And then we'll be having the three panel with the filmmakers. So please enjoy these workflow sessions, and I will be pleased to meet you at the coffee break. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for coming. Second day. Yes, please, yes. So just a question, how many people were here yesterday and listened to our presentation? Okay, so about the half of it. We don't see yet the presentation. Yes. Okay, just a quick introduction. We have done an industry-related research at Bournemouth University about the responsible use of the responsible use of generative AI tools. And we had 4 workshops with practitioners where they could use, try out tools and listen to presentations. And the outcome of this research was a white paper with a lot of information and analysis of the data regarding our main questions, which were focusing on creativity, collaboration, and bias. So yesterday we were talking more about let's say, more theoretical or intervention-focused outcomes. And today, with my 2 wonderful colleagues, we will be sharing a more like a practice-based research part of the whole research with Max G and Tom Davis and myself, and we are all practitioners. So just to kind of recap, the focus of responsible AI, we have put together 7 core principles of human generative AI collaboration, which are derived from existing value-based ethical principles, and we adapted them to the context of media production. So based on these principles, which are accountability, transparency, redressing bias, collaboration, interdisciplinarity, informed participation, and using open data sets where possible, we have also created a glossary of technical vocabulary to give users the possibility to have an interdisciplinary knowledge about the tools with the most important topics. And also we did create a matrix about certain tools looking at transparency and ethical issues. And based on this, we are working on developing a bias risk matrix. And this is like an example of how we would approach it. This is just looking at 4 image creation softwares, and we looked at the user ownership, the training of user inputs, what kind of content is prohibited, or what kind of bias and risk management is included in these apps, what are the commercial license terms, and what kind of in-app reporting possibilities they are. So all this to ensure, Melanie was talking yesterday about copyright, input, output, so kind of looking at the risks and ethical questions, both on the input and the output side. And then, based on these kind of bit more higher level principles, we also worked on a specific list of recommendation for responsible generative AI use as a reflective practice. We put together questions before using these tools. Some of them are how transparent are the developers behind the AI tools about the data set they have used for training? Can the tools be used online? How is the tool using the end user's input? What information does the company publicize on copyright? how can labor issues be mitigated. Of course, it needs all the literacy, legal literacy, technical literacy, which we are proposing. And while using the specific tools, there are questions about reinforcing stereotypes, how we can rewrite prompting in order to not to reinforce stereotypes, how can we mitigate against copyright issues, and how can we offset any sustainability issues while using generative AI tools. And then we had a couple of questions regarding after the practice or the workflow is finished. So how can we make sure the use of generative AI tools is transparent to the audience? We talked about a policy recommendation to introduce a system of labeling and accreditation, and how can we ensure a fair and responsible use of the outputs that respect both copyright of any used materials of the own and outputs, and I would add also how to mitigate misinformation and the use of deep fakes in a harmful way. So this is a very quick contextual overview, and the second part of the presentation will be more granularly looking into what kind of experiments and practical implementations of these questions we have done during our practice-based research. Max.
Hi, everyone. Okay. Hello. Just making sure that I actually keep myself to time. All right. So when we wanted to do this project, one of the things we really wanted to do, because a lot of us are practice researchers, was that we not only wanted to scope the industry and find out everything that's sort of being done at the moment, what some of the kind of key ethical considerations were, we also wanted to make something. And we are in the process of doing that. What we wanted to do was to see if we could use and integrate generative AI in every stage of that process and what that collaboration might look like. So the three of us today are going to talk about 3 stages within the sort of production workflow. We're still in the process of making. What we've realized is in reflecting and wanting to work through some of these ideas and working with tools and thinking about that collaborative process of the team, we've actually taken a lot longer than we normally would, but actually we've learned quite a lot of interesting things along the way. So I'll kick you off with thinking about the kind of ideas generation and script writing, which is my background and my practice research area. So when we started out, stage 1 for us was coming up with a concept for what we're aiming for, a very short film. So we're looking about 3 minutes and maybe 3 to 5 minutes, if that. And so we were trying to come some ideas. There was quite a large team, as you saw on the very first slide, so actually all together we decided that collaboratively we would want to explore various forms of kind of idea generation. So the entire team came up with a concept. We're from Bournemouth, which has the body of Mary Shelley and her husband's heart, which is a grim fact I like to keep reminding. And so Bournemouth has this kind of history with some of the writers of early science fiction and Gothic literature, and we thought that would be a really nice place to go from, because also if we think about Frankenstein, we also think about what it means to be human and all those kinds of questions of the post-human that we were really interested in. So we started there. So our entire team went away with that idea and hit the various prompt image generators. So we used a lot of different formats, and what you can see on this slide here is actually all of our various creative endeavors, from a lot of things with Frankenstein's creature, looking very much like the Hammer horror. That's the sort of what's out there in the generation. So we're starting to already see some of those biases creeping in, to some images of looking at what kind of Mary Shelley in the future might be like. She was really inspired by galvanization experimentation, and sort of seeing sort of the frog being reanimated. So that became a kind of motif for us, as you can see in some various interesting iterations as you move across the screen. And we've also got images of Geneva and the Villa Diodati, and thinking about that, through to images that are a little bit more abstract, of writing, of decaying libraries, things that head towards more Gothic, to some experimentation as well of looking at digital and vegetal crossovers, which is my personal area of interest. So you can see we got all of this together. And so we made all these images, we created a SharePoint, and we put all the files and images together. Then we looked at them, we thought about them, and we discussed. So that's bringing generative AI into the very early ideation and then moving on a little bit. So from there, we then needed to develop a story and a concept. So we were using sort of po.com and creating a bot to work with. This was something that we used in the script writing workshop session, and we thought it was quite nice. What's interesting about it, as you can see on the, sorry, these are very text-based, text area. If you can see on the, say, right-hand side of the screen, you'll see Poe's usual, like, certainly I'll be happy to incorporate these things, our usual kind of upbeat response. But what's quite nice about this is that you'll see little numbers, and those are references. So you build a knowledge base for your chatbot, your model, and you can input all sorts of things. As you can see on the left of the screen, we put in, within, it's out of copyright, Book of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's other work, The Last Man, the prompts that we'd created, and some experimentation, other elements. So we created a little knowledge base. It then references its knowledge base when it gives you responses back, which is really cool. So you can see, like, where in the knowledge were you inspired, Poe, to kind of come up with giving me a response? So from wanting to track things and see where ideas are being generated from, that's quite a nice kind of functionality, and I quite liked that. So again, thinking about that kind of responsible sense. So we built a lot of things into it. Sorry, I've gone way over. What we did with that then is build up these ideas and scenes, and we really liked kind of building in this image of a dimly lit, cluttered studio filled with decaying books and crumbling manuscripts, withered plants and neglected plots. So we're building in the vegetal, the books, our Mary Shelley-esque protagonist. So we still don't have a protagonist per se, but it's giving us little bits of ideas, lots of really cool, interesting visuals drawn from its knowledge. That then led on to actually a lot of problems. We got into a creative block, so we started to create music, we started to think about visuals coming off that, but we still didn't really have a story per se. We had lots of ideas, so that's when I actually took a step back, brought all that together, and actually just sat down and was like, okay, I need to think of a story and a concept that integrates. So I then, as human creator, stepped back from the AI, wrote the script built from all these ideas, which is what you can see here, and then kind of we'll be building that collaboration back in on the other end. So really, it's been this sort of back and forth, push-pull, and the usual kind of problems of seeing things that get reiterated, similar repetitions and things like that. So happy to talk a little bit more about some of these things, but this is the script that we have so far, building in ideas of sort of this narrator that's in a future where the buildings, the entire city is destroyed every day, if they don't create something. And one person within a flat within the building needs to create every day, and something new has to be generated. And all the problems of coming up with these ideas, which is what was inspired by the Poe experimentation. So I'll now move on to, I think it's Szilvia.
Thank you, Max. So I did some experimentation with image generation and image to video generation softwares, and the first step was to kind of find our protagonist, as Max said. On the left hand, you can see the original a picture of Mary Shelley, which I used in two different apps, Midjourney and Leonardo AI. And I have to say that it was very, very difficult, actually. I mean, we're still not having one, and I mean, I guess that's not necessarily at this point the goal. So there were a couple of biases coming up or stereotypes against which I had to kind of work myself through. One is, of course, age. It's very hard to get a perceived middle-aged woman. She looks always grumpy and kind of tired and I don't know, very not nice. So the one on the right side, I explicitly had to prompt the character to be smiling and the lights and everything. So the style as well, you can see the Mid-Journey one. And these are, what I have to say is that my first attempt was also to give very sparse prompts in a way to get the inner working of the app. So Mid-Journey would give me quite different styles of Mary Shelley on a huge spectrum. So this is one experience that we made. That it's if it's a historical character and it's not necessarily about realism, finding your own style, and I guess other people will be talking about this, is quite a tedious work. So then another thing that I did is Max mentioned that the texts coming out from Poe were very, very visual, also using the language of the original or the style of writing. So I took verbatim one of the images. I went through, took note of what kind of images they are, and took one picture, a circular glass wall study greenhouse where scholarly pursuits meets natural decay, etc., etc. I think Max mentioned it as well. So this is kind of our central image. And I have to say at this point that in terms of workflows, it was also interesting that we meandered between, let's say, more traditional filmmaking workflow with role division and clear kind of writing script, making images, sound, and putting it together. But then I would say there is also a world-building approach into it, including the very beginning where we sat together. So the whole idea was actually what you saw before. It was, in technical terms, I would say it was a mood board, but it was also a board for a world building, and I guess images are very central in this kind of world building approach of, okay, this is the world in which we want to create a character and the story. So that's a side note. And then this is another image generation based on the prompt that Mid-Journey derived from the image before. You can see that this is slightly different in style, and what I think is the most interesting, when I asked Runway to generate a video with a very, very little prompting, and I want to share this with you. Okay. So exactly. So this is the moment. I would not call this serendipity, because serendipity also would include some kind of happy encounter. I think Szilvia Ruszev had yesterday. Oh, yeah. So I guess this is there are articles about the system prompts of LLMs. This is for me kind of getting out the system prompt of these models, and I kind of assume that this, for me, looks like a game engine first-person shooter thing, and that this is how it comes in. So without a lot of prompting, this is what comes out. So yeah, this is another experience. And in terms of copyright, the experiment that I did was to choose copyright-free images for style reference. And I went through the website, public domain, and found this one, which kind of liked. It's hard to verbalize why I liked it, actually, which will bring me to my reflections. But as you can see, I took that and did two different versions, one using it as a style on the right side, and on the left side combining it. So I guess I was looking for something that is evocative and kind of helping with the fire in the background. So to sum up the reflection, I feel that one has to build a different kind of intuition using generative AI tools, which might change how we make sense of creative processes, and especially changing the modality of, I don't work with words necessarily, so for me it's definitely a change of modality, or the question of where does the process start? Do we have a mental image before we start? We did hear yesterday one of the directors said that he did have all the images beforehand. Other talk about serendipitous moments. So this question of control versus serendipity, and the way that the generative AI tools create images in a very different way, in a much less tactile way as we're used to be creating images, even with a camera. And then, again, connected to the question of where the process starts, thinking about externalization of the imagination and externalization of the thinking, which Tom talked about yesterday. And so, bias-wise, it's hard to get against the statistical mean. And in terms of ethical considerations, a reflection that I feel it's hard to get around with so much in this kind of copy-paste remix culture, that it's very hard to just stop and not like be transparent about the sources that we're using. But it is very important. So next is Tom.
5 minutes? Yeah, is that okay? I will cut down what I've got to say slightly, but I'm going to reiterate some points that have been raised already. Just going back to the beginning and looking at the questions we had, which were, how transparent are the developers behind the AI tool and the datasets they have used for training? How does the tool use the end user's output? They were two I focused on, particularly for the music making section of this. And I used two tools, one called Suno, one called Udio, which are probably amongst the least ethically available tools, because they have large data sets full of commercial music which they are not honest about, which they are currently being sued for by the big major record companies. And they basically say anything you upload to the site belongs to them. And they don't even really guarantee that you own the output that you've made. They can't really guarantee. I mean, you can ask Mel what actually the terms and conditions really mean, but my reading of it is, we own everything that you've made, and if you make something, even if you subscribe, we can't really guarantee you own that anyway. Yeah. So this is, I'm going to play you, they're quite good at making pop music. This is the first prompt I put in. This is about 2 years ago.
Write a song about the struggle of making authentic music with AI that has a human soul and depth of expression.
So it incorporated the prompt into the song, which is nice. And then it had some quite bland but kind of catchy music. I mean, it writes catchy music. It's quite good at making pop music. It's not so good at writing Mandarin rock. from China. I tried that. Doesn't do Mandarin vocals very well. So there is bias in that training data.
Write a song.
Then a bit more about the process of working with the script. Like Szilvia, I don't work with words. In fact, I make music to express things I can't express in words. I like to say that, if that's true. And for me, this whole idea of translation is an issue. So the script is a way of expressing a story, and that story contains human emotion. Then I asked ChatGPT to summarize that script and write prompts for Suno for me. So I got it to do all the work. So it was kind of guessing what Max was intending in her script. And then I used those prompts to write music, which is then using its training data to encode what it thinks the emotional response is. So based on the biases around that. And then you audifying the music, and you're expecting people to listen to it and then make their own interpretation of this. So there's all these layers here of kind of emotional translation, which are very different. My normal practice is standing on stage, performing with an instrument. That's quite a direct way of communicating something from me to you, as opposed to this kind of workflow. But it can make some stuff. Let's play a little bit of this. This is scene 3. Which passes for a cello, and it's probably good enough, right? I think that's the issue with this stuff. It makes stuff that's good enough. Would I pay 80 quid to go and listen to that in a concert? Probably not. If it's sat behind an image in a film, where it's meant to feel a bit sad and melancholic, it would probably do the job, right? Which is part of the problem. One quick example of serendipity, I put the top prompt in to Suno, to get it to generate some output without asking it to not write lyrics. So it came up with this song, which I won't play the whole song, which is about writing film music.
Mysterious and ominous tone, utilizing deep, resonant screams and sparse low brass incorporate otherworldly using synthesizers, creating an eerie soundscape. The rhythm is slow and deliberate, evoking a sense of amazing wonder. Introduce a haunting, dissonant melody played by violins and echoed by a distant piano. The percussion is subtle but sharp, like the ticking of an unknown clock. Build layers of tension with swelling strings and a rumbling bass.
It gets better. I haven't got time to play the whole thing, but it's an amazing piece of art. I mean, I wish I'd written that as kind of like I can't say play, as like a piss take, yeah, to what film composers are doing. And in my head, I'm thinking, how am I generating this emotion? What am I going to do? I'm going to have this, and a low bass tone, and some striding strings. It's all the cliches in film music composition in a script, basically. Right, my last slide, I will stop. No more of that. Right. Oh, we have a little bit of choir at the end. I've spent 40 years playing the piano, and I'm not amazing at the piano, but I've spent a long time working with that as a thing to make something that reflects what I'm feeling. I've spent 2 years, but not really 2 years, a much smaller amount of time using this AI as a tool. So you've got to expect, I think, to struggle with these things because they're new to you. Yeah, it takes a long time to master something. And as was said very importantly yesterday, these tools are constantly changing. Yeah, you can't even really keep up with how they're working or what's happening with them. I really struggled with this idea of collaboration because I couldn't get my hands into the thing. It would just run off and make something and come back and go, I've made this, woohoo! And I'd be like, that's not what I wanted. And this music software, you can't have a dialogue with it, not in the same way you can with ChatGPT. You can't say, that's nice, but make me something like that with something else. It just goes off and makes something new. So it's really difficult to have something where you get a sense that you're really collaborating with a piece of work. I think that's where I'll stop because we're really out of time, but thank you very much. Did you have a last slide? Check out the report because it's got lots of cool stuff in and it's really worth reading.
Thank you so much. I think it's a really, really interesting project. Lots of notes been taken here. I think we have room for one quick question if you have. I think one of the most interesting things about this project is, for example, where does the process start? I think it's a really interesting statement or going beyond the expected things. It's kind of difficult to stress this to students, to people who are starting to use these kind of models. And also the emergence of new creative processes beyond the tradition of filmmaking. One kind of thing we'll be discussing today is if this new process will bring new art or just same art with different path. Rock.
Yes. Thank you. Very interesting. It was great to know more about the project this morning than we knew yesterday. At least I was able to grasp more things. And something came to my mind. It's very lateral. It's not something central in the project. I was thinking about your prompting in English, and you're getting results that have a lot to do with, I would say, English culture. When I see the architectural results of or references of those images, I immediately think about art history lessons and Paxton and the glass and steel architecture of the modernism, etc. And I was wondering, I interact in Catalan usually with these tools, but I haven't seen this kind of, I would say, historical cultural bias. Are you aware of that, or have you tried, or how multilingual was the group you worked with, or do you have any thoughts about it?
Okay, so I'll start quickly. And I think that's a really great question, actually something really important and something we were trying to flag yesterday with that sort of the biases that we bring to our own kind of work and the things that are implicit that then kind of comes out of that. And I think you're right. It's interesting to see what is produced now because we had the Poe base in English literature and the literature of Mary Shelley. It's bringing up a lot of stuff that's kind of based back then. But actually, The Last Man is kind of an interesting dystopian sort of piece. So it's a very, for those of you who don't know, this is a very early novel written in the 1820s. The 1820s, but it's like a dystopia where everyone is gone. So again, Mary Shelley doing the cool stuff of sci-fi very early on. But you're right, it's very English-based. It's very much based within her period and her culture, and we're working with that as well. Bilingual, while we're not sort of we're not. But our workshop attendees brought a lot of different kind of languages to the table. And that was something we noticed, that actually working with, I think for some folks working with different models, some of them were better than others at working in different languages. I don't know, I'd be fascinated to hear your own experience, but I think that's something that we may want to kind of think about as we try to diversify these models, to try to diversify what we create with them. I think yesterday we were talking a lot about that. We might need to kind of become quite active in how we prompt so that what the models, because what we prompt leads back into what the models think we want. And ultimately, they're trying to give us what we want. If we are providing a wide range of what we want, and that's really opening things up, then maybe that will also kind of cause a bit of a change within what actually is being generated and being created. But the other problem of that is what is going into those sets. So if you are wanting something, I think if you want a model to work really effectively, that's going to be giving you a lot of imagery that is out of a particular style, then you're going to be wanting to build that model yourself and put in a knowledge base, creating your own data set that is going to have that kind of material. Sorry, that was long.
Thank
you. Yeah.
So, thank you. I think also the display you made coming here as a team, I think it's also really valuable to the workflow session here and the the overall purpose of this panel. So thank you really, really much.